5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, y'all. What's the deal? This your man King Eric, the media assassin, and we are now tuned in to episode, I think 660. I lost count, but we in the 660s right now of Off the Cuff Radio. He's done so much work, man. Sometimes we just lose the chorus, man. But nevertheless, we back in the building this Friday night. Got my host T-Match with the facts on the line. What's good?
What to do another fantabulous Friday on that freshest outstanding frequency, OTC Off the Cuff Radio. We allow the number. Shout out to our co-host and spirit, a lot of Sandman, Lady Chinchilla, and of course DJ Sinsky of Dirty Basement Radio from New York. Can't forget about our brother Noah. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, in a long line of historical and impactful episodes, we got another historical, impactful episode. This man right here, if you remember the time of Rap City, the video music box, Yo on TV Raps, and anywhere you live with public access television, i.e. Splash TV like it was out here in VA because we saw it, the guest we have tonight is a multi-talented maven of media aspects. This man has directed, produced, and edited some of the most memorable and absolutely awesome rap videos. And I can't even just say rap, just hip hop culture in general. Just some of the dopest hip hop videos that has ever been filmed. He is somebody who pretty much you cannot write the name in terms of hip hop history without mentioning this man in terms of what he's done. He's a producer, he's a director, he's an editor, he's an accomplished musician. He's also got his own productions, Blue Music Productions, and he's got so much more to tell us about in terms of his awesome, indelible, and incredible history. The credentials are endless. We're going to get into that with him. But we're going to go ahead and get into this introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary, the most awesome, the most incredible Abdul Malik Abbott. Welcome to Off the Cuff Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm humbled by your words. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, we had to give you the primetime intro first and foremost, man.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Let's get into this.
Yes. Like I said, your history is just, I mean, the longevity that you maintained over 35, 40 plus years in this business has to be commended. You are a treasure to the culture. But there's always an origin story for your media heroics.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how it all began.
Okay, I'll try to condense it all. Since you said 40 years. You said 40 years. Oh man, that's crazy. Ooh. I ain't that old, but anyway, it's been a minute though. I started when I was a teenager. Actually, no, I started before that. But I give all praise due to my father. His name was Randy Abbott. He was a filmmaker in Harlem. He was teaching at Studio Museum of Harlem. He was a photographer as well. So he inspired me to become a filmmaker and a photographer. Mm-hmm. So I give the credit to my father, and I give the credit to my mother, who helped me keep my artistic values in check while growing up in Harlem, where there weren't a lot of artists that I met anyway. There weren't a lot of artists. It was more street stuff going on. So she let me and kept me focused. So I always give praises to my mother and father.
Now, when you look at Harlem, when you were coming up, there are so many legends. I mean, we're looking at guys like Guy Fisher, even for all of the stuff that happened and the stories with him. I mean, we can't mention Harlem without Alpo in terms of what was going on at that time. But, I mean, you have Pee Wee Kirkland, all those guys, and that's just the short list.
Mm-hmm.
Coming along in that time, what did you find in terms of, obviously, the streets and the business of the streets that would help you to understand your were already on that path in terms of, getting into the media. But what did you find in terms of understanding how it worked in terms of how that would correlate to business and capturing that feel when you got behind the camera and started to really document it through music and film?
I think it was just trying to keep, I guess, street cred, if that's the right word to put in there. I always say I grew up in the streets, but I'm not street. I grew up studying Islam, so that's very, very. There's a lot of, what do you call it? Discipline. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a disciplined household. So there was no chance I'm going to be running the streets.
Right.
I had to go to school. I had to study. I had to make good grades. There was a lot of things that I was sheltered from just because of that. So I was focused. I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to worry about, being in the wrong crowd because my mother wasn't having it.
Right.
So there was that discipline in the household. So I turned all that young energy towards the arts. So I'm reading comic books, I'm watching movies, I'm listening to music, I'm reading the making of books. The stuff that I guess a nerd would do. Going to comic conventions, I'm drawing, I'm painting, I'm doing everything I could possibly do to maintain a level of artistry, as well as learning about photography and learning about filmmaking slowly. The filmmaking thing was hard, because you can't really say you're a filmmaker by yourself, even though I was a filmmaker by myself because I have my little Super 8 camera and I'm shooting little movies, but at some point you need people to be in the movies. So it was a long journey. Just in the beginning was a long journey.
Yeah, and people have to understand the vision of it, because when you look at it and what was happening during that time, when we started seeing hip-hop videos come into play, of course, Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5, The Message, with the gritty New York streets. We would see Run DMC coming to the game. We're beginning to see more of that street element. Obviously, with Ice-T, NWA, Eric B. and Rakim, KRS, that will come way later in terms of getting more of that documentation of it to go along. Because I think anytime you have music, you have to have a visual representation of it that really encapsulates the whole clip. Back in the day, videos were still somewhat of a nascent phenomenon in terms of hip-hop culture. So we weren't even getting the real,
the nuisance of it.
Yeah, the documentaries and the movies, which we're going to get into later on, of one of the most famous that you were part of. Basically, you headed up. What was your introduction to hip-hop, Abdul, in terms of who are some of your favorites growing up in addition to your artistic endeavors and pursuits?
It all started with Rapper's Delight, to be honest with you, but it also started with Chic, Good Times. So, my family, I come from a family that loved the music. So, as I'm growing up and trying to figure out what I like, I'm listening to what my uncle and my mother and my aunts play. So that's Chic, that's Parliament Funkadelic, that's Marvin Gaye, that's all this really great music, James Brown. And I'm trying to play catch up because I'm a little kid. But I could not escape their music because it was better than what, we're talking about the early 80s. It's better than what I was listening to. So when Rapper's Delight came out and they used Chic, Good Times, that's when I was like, oh, I think I like this. Even though the rhymes, when you listen to the rhymes, they're kind of corny, but it was just a good vibe. It felt good. Obviously, the song was called Good Times. So that was the introduction. I didn't really go too deep into hip-hop that much because it was kind of scattered at that time.
Right.
Up until Boogie Down Productions came out. Once Boogie Down Productions came out, KRS-One, Scott LaRock, and that was like my real introduction to hip-hop, and that was my rebel side of me coming out because, they would curse. And I remember my sister hearing, I don't like it because they're cursing. And I was like, well, I like it because they are cursing. So that was my introduction. So I was like a KRS-One Boogie Down Production fan from the beginning, and I was Chris tagging up on the train. You know, I would see Chris KRS-One on the train back when people would act. Yeah, I didn't see him personally do it. I would just see his tag. Right. So I knew who he was from all of that. So that was my introduction of it, and you know, so it was a little edgier than the dance. I wasn't not really into like the pop hip hop. I was a little more into the edgier hip hop. Right. So I would say KRS-One really opened the door for it, and then what really got me like into it hardcore. Even though Run DMC was still hot too, but it was Public Enemy that really opened my eyes and my ears. And I always give Dante Ross, who's a music exec, credit for introducing me to Public Enemy. He was like, "You got to check out Public Enemy." We worked in the same restaurant actually. I was like a kid, the busboy. So was he, and he was like, "Yeah, listen to Public Enemy." I thought he was talking about Public Image Limited, which is a European kind of punk dance band. I was like, "Really, you like that?" And actually, I did like Public Image Limited. But he was like, "No, it's Public Enemy. You gotta listen to it." And as soon as I heard my Lucy Weighs a Ton and all that stuff, Rebel Without a Pause, I was hooked. So that was my introduction to hip hop, like for real.
When you talk about that era, Abdul, you know, me and King, we were kind of, you know, we were babies coming up in that, and you were, you know, already, you know, matured with it in terms of what I understand. I mean, when we think about Nile Rodgers and Chic and what they were doing, you know, still, he's just one of the all-time greats. Mm-hmm. You know, in terms of music. When you think about Paul and Funkadelic, you can't say that without George Clinton. You know what I'm saying? The Godfather himself.
Sly Stone in the band, James Brown.
Man,
just a lot of people at that time period that brought visuals to life. Like a lot of their videos, if you look at their videos, it was ingrained in a lot of colorful attire. It had a lot of, course, it had a lot of.
I mean, there's a lot. I skipped a lot, but there's Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Maurice White.
Now, granted, it had a lot of weird looking stuff going on for their era. You know, I ain't gonna wear no stuff like that, but.
Right.
The music.
To me, I think when I was enjoying the music, I wasn't caring too much about the videos because videos were still new, you know, in the 80s for black folks. You know what I mean? Right. So, like, we would get the kind of the whack videos. Like, they didn't look too good. Even the hip hop videos, they always put us behind a fence and there's a garbage on fire in the background or something crazy.
Right.
But eventually, you know, I caught on with then the Michael Jackson started, and then my sister introduced me to Prince, and then I was a big, huge Prince fan. And then I just kept learning different genres. I was not stuck in one genre at all. But I always respected my elders' music, and they weren't listening to Johnny Mathis. They were listening to what I had said before, Harlem and Funkadelic, Flash, like, you know, stuff like that was the jam.
Right.
Yeah.
George Benson, people like that were just making great music.
Man.
But I always had my eyes on the art. That was my thing, though. I wasn't thinking about playing the music. I was just listening to it at that point.
When you saw these artists and how they were representing black culture in such a vibrant, uncensored, and genuine fashion, how would that influence you in terms of when you would start doing videos later, in terms of what you want to project in terms of how you wanted that? Like you said, you want the street credibility, but to really give that artist, because it's one thing to shoot it, but it's also for the artist to feel comfortable in front of the camera in terms of being able to really bring it to life. If you look at Michael Jackson, we all know about the situation with MTV back in the day where they'll still try to deny it, but the fact was MTV really was not really playing Michael Jackson's, what was it, King Thriller? No, it was Beat It. That was the first video.
Yeah, it was Beat It.
Black video that was played on, that was in, 1982. Off the Thriller. That was the first.
Right. Well, I don't know if they denied it. Sorry for cutting you. I think it was a fact.
Okay, yeah. Look. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that was the thing. They had said at one point we were not
They
going to
just
play
weren't doing
black
it.
videos. Yeah, they weren't going to do it.
And I think it was Rick James who actually brought that out and started making us think about it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it's in a documentary too. Rick James was an advocate for pushing to get black videos on MTV. And I think another white artist too. Maybe it was David Bowie.
Yeah, it was David Bowie.
Yeah, rest in peace to David, man.
Yeah.
He was really for us.
Yeah, Bowie was crazy. Bowie was.
David Bowie has a history, working with Luther Vandross and, just learning, absorbing from the experts basically. Even though he was a creative, talented artist himself, but I always, he didn't steal. He just was informed and he learned from black artists. So I always do appreciate his swag.
Well, the thing about it, when you listen to songs like Fame that he did, with that funky ass bass line, it was not cultural appropriation. David, the man was married to a black wife. I mean,
right.
it don't get more authentic than that.
Yeah, he understood the change.
Yeah, Iman, you know what I'm saying? I mean, come on now. I mean, but he was not appropriating. He was really, really, he really appreciated the culture. He appreciated the craft. He really, respected the art. And my thing is, no matter what color you are, if you have a genuine appreciation and know the history and advocate for equality and, the rights of black artists, you're all right with me, because it means the time to understand what was going on with it in terms of the struggles.
Right. Well, he did appropriate Little Richard's haircut, but but he did. It was mentioned. It wasn't a secret, but he did take his hairstyle for sure.
Man.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I digress.
No, it's okay. No, we love it.
It's all good, man. But going into your career, man, and you study a film, like what was some films that personally inspired your style? Like what are some films that you analyzed and was like, okay, those that had some good cut scenes, those that had memorable scenes, like films that inspired you?
Okay, well that's a very broad, big question, but I'm gonna narrow it down. So what got me into films, period, was Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Grease. Those movies and Jaws scared the hell out of me. So I was really too young to see Jaws, but I went anyway, and it still affects me to this day. I don't want to get in the ocean, but anyway. So it was really Star Wars, Grease, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies. And then, but when you talk about, okay, so you're going to start editing and directing and trying to be a filmmaker, it was one movie that I really was inspired by, and it was Streets of Fire, if you remember that one.
Yeah, Michael Pare and William Dafoe.
Yeah, so that movie made me want to be an editor, just the way they started that opening sequence. I think MTV had just started as well. Could have been out a little while, but it was really MTV and that movie that was like, oh, okay, I like this editing thing. I like the way they put this stuff together. It was very flashy and neon, ground is wet and everything. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. That was sort of like the spark that ignited some stuff. And Michael Jackson was cool, but I wasn't really I liked, Thriller and all that, but those were more like little mini movies, and they weren't really based in reality. They were sort of this own circle of Michael Jackson world. So I was more into more reality-based videos and productions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We think about it at the time because we looked at the videos at that time. I think, and if I want to make sure I got my facts right, because even if I get this wrong, it's not intentional. I think when they said when he did Off the Wall, on Off the Wall album, when he did Off the Shoot, I want to say that actually was the first $1 million video, or close to it. That or Beat It, but that was like.
I don't think it was Off the Wall.
Yeah, Off the Wall. Yeah.
I don't think it was Off the Wall. I don't
it
think.
couldn't have been Off the Wall because that was a small album actually. Like only like real folks really know about that album. But it was the Thriller album. Maybe Beat It.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be. It's one of those videos. It's either that or Beat It was supposed to be like it's supposed to be the first $1 million video.
Yeah, I believe that. Because Off the Wall. I think on that when he did Rock With You, he was just in front of like a green screen or something. But yeah, when they did the whole thing with the gangs and the dancers and all they spent some money on that.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was $1 million, but I can see where the money could go.
Yeah, that's where you. I think it was Thriller though, man. Cause Thriller, he had werewolves and shit. He had all.
It's one of them. It's one of those videos.
Had Ola Ray as co-star.
Right.
So I remember, and for our listeners, who may not understand his history, you got to remember because everybody kind of knows Mike, from recency in terms of rest in peace to the King of Pop. A lot of the younger generation today will pretty much probably know Mike from the 90s to now. But people got to remember when Mike, with Off the Wall in 79 and Thriller in 82, Mike was already over 20 years in by that time. Remember, he started like 6, 7 years old. So Mike was already like some years in with the Jackson 5, to the Jacksons, to being a solo artist. And so this was like by the time 82 hit and Thriller, shout to Quincy Jones and Rod Temperton as well, who were exceptional instrumentals on that album. They literally blocked programming to premiere his video.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike was a big deal at the time.
Right.
And it was, and he pretty much carried the rest of his career going into the 80s and early 90s. Like when he dropped videos, when he did Remember the Time, when he did Dirty Diana, it was like, it was, Black and White, it was a big deal.
Right. Right.
We ain't even gotten into the co-stars he had in the video. Beat It with a young Wesley Snipes dancing. Of course, Remember the Time with Magic Johnson, Eddie Murphy, Yvonne, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Rest in peace, John Singleton. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, John Singleton. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that was a major deal. When we get to the hip hop element again of it, after we talk about Public Enemy, easily their debut album, Yo Bum Rush's Show, the Bomb Squad, the Shockley Brothers, Hank and Keith, of course Chuck D, Flavor Flav, Terminator X on the cut, Professor Griff, the S1Ws. This was a whole movement. Mm-hmm. It really turned hip-hop on its ears. So you figure within I think that was 86, 87, and Boogie Down Productions drops in like 86, 87. We're seeing hip-hop really morph into this real hard street element. And you said when you first heard that album, it just sets you on your ear. We're talking about a group that is tackling the system head on, blindsiding them like Lawrence Taylor on Joe Theismann. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And really like taking it down and raising it up. Why did that album impact you the way that it did in terms of the message that it bore?
I think it was just like I said, it was the rebel side of me, because what they were saying just sort of connected. Because I was not, like I said, I'm not a street kid at all. I just was in the street, wasn't street, and they weren't just talking. They were talking stuff that made sense to me. They weren't just boasting and bragging about things. So I focused on the street tales, the consciousness of their lyrics sometimes, the political edge of their lyrics, and we're talking about Public Enemy, as well as Karis when he kind of mixed it up a little bit. He had some conscious songs, but he also had some braggadocious songs too. Mm-hmm. So he had a good mix, and he had the the Jamaican little patois he throw in there every once in a while. So I was actually digging that as well.
Got you.
Yeah.
Now, when you talked about you had the Super 8 camera going around the time, what were some of your early projects in terms of what you would film? What was the first project that you ever filmed?
For money or just in general?
Just in general. This is before the money comes.
Okay. In general, I mean, at first I started out doing animation, so I would do stop motion animation. And shout out to my boy Andre Effendi, a friend of mine who also went to Music and Art High School. And, he was doing animation and I picked up doing stop motion animation. And we both went to School of Visual Arts College on the weekend while we were in high school, so I could learn how to do animation. So that was the introduction of just picking up a camera and doing stuff with it. Eventually I got tired of the stop motion animation because it can take you weeks to animate something and it only lasts for a few seconds. So I would go out and start filming stuff on my bike. I put the camera on my bike, and I don't know where these films are anymore, but I would just film stuff and then make it like it's a fight with people shooting lasers out of their bicycle, and you would scratch on the film to make the laser go through, make it look like there's a laser. So I was being creative as a kid, and keep in mind I'm a kid. I'm like, well, how was I? No, I was like 15 or something like that, or a little younger, maybe 12 or 13. I started out playing with these stuff young, these cameras. So I would say it was a short film called 10 Speed. Kind of self-explanatory. It's 10 Speed bike.
Right.
Once again, inspired by Star Wars. So, putting the camera on the bike and then riding through stuff and cutting through so it looks like you're going really fast. So I was just learning how to make movies from watching movies.
That's dope. And when you think about the element of cartoons, I think about one name in particular that's most notable because she's female. Rest in peace to Jackie Jones, who's regarded as the first, black female cartoonist. So obviously there was, a path, set there, of course, which you were going to follow in as well. When you look at the effects of it in terms of 10 Speed, and everything always starts small before it becomes, a monolith of not monolith, but an monument of magnificence. Monolith just means to stand still and know you've been moving. But when you look at a monument of magnificence in terms of where it starts, for where it ends up, when you think about that small project and how it kept you saw that and realized that maybe I can do more of this. And not only could I do more of this, I could do this in such a grander scale. What was the project coming after that and the subsequent ones that, as you're building these blocks of Dual, will ultimately get you to that level? Not only can I do this, but I'm going to do it big.
Okay, well, I'm going to still keep it where there's no money and I'm still in school. So at some point I graduated high school, music and art, and I went to School of Visual Arts for film. So I would just say during the time in school it was more experimental. And then I also studied at Downtown Community Television, DCTV, electric film. So I was learning everything, documentary making, editing, camera work, directing, mostly documentary style. So by the time I was able to shoot my thesis film for School of Visual Arts, I already kind of had my style, which was dramatic piece with, seems like I always had music involved. So it had music in it. I created a character, two characters, because I wrote it. It was MC Abby Ab and DJ Ollie D. Later on, it got switched and turned into DJ Abby Ab. But I came up with these two characters who were hip hop artists, like Run DMC characters. I don't think I mentioned, but I was a huge Run DMC fan, by the way. I think that was one of the most concerts I've ever been to for a rap artist. I think I've seen them 6-7 times. But And I'm not talking the small concerts either. I'm talking about the big ones in Madison Square Garden or on the West Side Highway. They would have concerts, and the Beastie Boys. But I think it was my thesis film called 99%. It's not available anywhere. I still have it, but it was on film. That was the introduction because it had all the pieces. It had drama, it had music, had good-looking women, and it had slickness about it. So that was my introduction to just like, okay, the genre that I like. And I sort of stuck with it for a while.
Wow. So it's pretty much like you said. You have to have the love, the drive to keep going, even when there's no money. So that's not you said music was an integral element of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you saw the music, because this is a few years in, when you saw the rap really going to full bloom with it, and then we haven't even talked about the West Coast hip hop, but Ice-T, NWA, and all of them coming in.
Mm-hmm.
What were you seeing in terms of not only the style of hip hop changing, but how the videos were shot and how everything was being represented?
I mean, if you still talking about back then, I mean, I'm not even sure where we are in the timeline of hip hop, but if you're talking about NWA,
wherever you want to start with,
I think it was still very much East Coast for me. So, and in reality, there was no West Coast, East Coast, anything. It was just America. It was
just
not
good
even
music.
a thing to think about a rapper from the West Coast. If they're good, and you hear about them. So I was still dealing with stuff on the East Coast side. So now we're talking about LL Cool J. Like, don't forget LL was big. LL is still big, but I mean LL was the man.
Yeah.
So, and I had worked on a lot of his videos as a sound technician. This is after graduating. But
tell us about that. Tell us about how that came about.
Okay, yeah. So backing up a little bit, after I graduated from college, you needed a job. There wasn't not a lot of jobs for black people in the film industry in New York or anywhere, to be honest with you. I managed to meet a colleague, a black sound man. His name is Charles Hunt, and we worked on a movie together called Death by Temptation. And that was like one of the first movies I worked on as a boom operator, sound department. I had already started. I already started PAing.
With the same one with Kadeem Hardison?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started in the business working on movies when I was 17. So I worked on a bunch of movies.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah. I could keep this for 2 hours talking, but
let's go. Let's get it.
Show that resume.
So I worked on a bunch of movies when I was a teenager while I was still in school, and once I graduated, I just kept working, but I was a PA, production assistant. So when I got that availability to do sound, and that was only because someone took me under their wing. Her name was Barbara Zom. While I was a PA, she was like, "Oh, you should look into sound." So she sort of helped me a little bit and introduced me into sound recording and boom operating. And I hated that when I was in school. I hated sound. I was like, I don't want to do this, and I hate editing. And those are two things I hated, and I ended up doing those. But so actually, after I met Charles, we worked on that movie. Met Sam Jackson, he was in it. Dean Hardison, Bill Nunn. So it was like an introduction of black Hollywood in New York. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Ernest Dickerson was shooting it. He was just off of shooting School Days, and then it turned out he was about to go shoot Do the Right Thing for Spike.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Can I get on Do the Right Thing? So I ended up working on Do the Right Thing in the sound department.
Oh.
As like the sound department PA. So that was my introduction to everybody, basically, that I'm still friends with. So we got Ruth Carter, who just won 2 Oscars. We got Robbie Reed. We got Millicent Shelton, who's a big director now. We had Sam Jackson. We had Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, Danny Aiello.
Rest in peace,
like
man.
So many people. Giancarlo Esposito, Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
everybody's in that movie, and everybody who's black and working in film is trying to work on that movie. So I was lucky enough to work on it.
Now, Abdul, you're bringing tears to our eyes in a good way, because people do not understand. I tell anybody, between the years of 1982 and 1999, that is like a who's who of not only black movies and productions, but black actors and actresses.
Mm-hmm.
When you see Wesley Snipes, Rosie Perez, Alan Payne, Jada Pinkett, Tupac Shakur, Kadeem Hardison, Jasmine Guy, LL Cool J, because he started doing movies in 1990, of course, with The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox and James Woods. A lot of people forget about that. Queen Latifah, Will Smith, Lawrence Tate, Tyrone Turner, Bernie Mac, Ice Cube, Ice-T. The list is endless.
Mm-hmm.
Just the flux of talent alone.
Yeah, so it's like when you're a production assistant at the time, so obviously you're the assistant to the producer in terms of taking care of all the business in that aspect. For our audience out there, please give a direct definition of what the PA does in terms of where their duties are and how important it is to helping the producer.
Okay, yeah. So basically, a production assistant, or PA, as we'll call it, there's so many different departments you could be in, but I'll just say the ones that I was in. So in the beginning, I was just PA, general PA in the office, which is go get us lunch, go pick this up, blah blah blah. Okay, so I did that. Then once they get to shooting, then it's like, okay, depending on your skills, you pick up the truck with the gear in it. So I did that, and when I was working on this movie called Sweet Lorraine, which was up shooting in the Catskills, I would have to every other day drive the film to New York City to get developed, and then bring the developed film back up to the Catskills, which that's like a 4-hour thing. So I would do that. On that movie, I met Giancarlo Esposito. He's in it, but it was basically about a Jewish resort up in the Catskills, but it had two black people in it. It was 3 black people on set, and I was the third one. 2 were actors, and 1 was me. So you would do stuff like that. You would do runs. You would pick up food, craft service. Craft service is just food for the set. That's kind of, and you might assist the assistant director, but you're not doing stuff on set. You're just telling people to be quiet. You have a walkie-talkie 2 blocks away and stopping people from driving sometimes, or walking on the set. Jobs that you really don't want to do. So that was doing that for a while.
It's that whole pay your dues deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole paying your dues type deal.
Oh, definitely. And then the money's garbage too. So keep that in mind. Or if you're an intern, then you ain't getting nothing.
When you look at those days, Abdul, when you were really, and obviously, before you get to the top, you start at the bottom. You worked on some historical stuff. Did you all know, with the, in the many projects that you will be on, the many sets that you will work during that period, did you know you were in the midst of a golden age of black cinema, where cinema classics would be created in abundance?
I would say maybe, because it was all new to me. So, I didn't get to experience it at that time while I was doing it. Like, I knew it was new and different and cool because I'm seeing black people on set. Now, keep in mind, I did a lot of productions. I worked on a lot of productions where I was a PA, and I was the only black person there, period. Mm-hmm. So, once you get on set, you see people like-minded, then at least you feel like there's some progress. So, but I think once Do the Right Thing blew up, and then we went on to work on Mo Better Blues, which was called Love Supreme at the time. That's what I saw. I knew, like, all right, this black industry is going to move forward. But it was already moving forward, to be honest with you, because there was other productions. I just didn't work on them, so I didn't really have much to say about it. But obviously we already had Eddie Murphy blowing up the spot, doing everything. So, but it was
Bill Cosby with the Cosby Show, a different world,
Right. So it was happening. So I just got in as it was happening. Right. And I just kind of jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak.
Man, but thinking about that, because when you think about when you work Mo Better Blues, because you figure when Spike Lee did his first movie, She's Gotta Have It, that came out in, 85, 86. And then School Days will come, 88, I believe? Mm-hmm. And then
Do the Right Thing.
Then Do the Right Thing will come in 89.
Right.
And then Jungle Fever came in 90. So
no, Mo Better Blues was, I think, right after Do the Right Thing.
It could have been. It
was, because I went from one to the other. Yeah. And then I didn't work on the next one. I didn't work on Jungle Fever.
Got you. But Spike is killing it at the time. If we haven't even gotten to Malcolm X in 1992.
Right.
So this is crazy. So you're in the midst of all of this, getting, earning your stripes, padding your resume. So we still got to hear that LL story. But when did it come for you in terms of when you really got your chance to really show what you could do, in terms of when, how did that come in terms of, were you approached, or did you approach somebody, or somebody, recommended you for someone in terms of some work that needed to be done?
Well, I was always looking forward to being a director and an artist. When you're a PA, you're not an artist. When you're doing sound, you're not an artist, you're a technician. So my goal was to continue down that road as an artist. So editing is artistry. I was good at it, but I didn't want to do it. But I had a friend who had started a production company with her, Herbie Lovebug. Her name was Millicent. Her name is still Millicent Shelton. She was directing a lot of music videos, like Salt and Pepper, Kwame, in that camp, whatever that camp was called. But I think that's the Herbie Lovebug camp. Salt and Pepper too. I think I said Salt and Pepper. But Queen Latifah. So at one point I asked, hey, can I edit this video? And I think it was Salt and Pepper or Kwame, I forget. I think it was Salt and Pepper. I don't know. Maybe it was one of those two. It was a guy ran into Kwame a few months ago. I was like, hey, I worked on your video a million years ago. My friend Melissa gave me the opportunity to edit one of her videos. And she gave me pointers on how she liked things to be edited. And I just sort of learned how she wanted to have it edited, but put my own style into it.
Okay.
But that was the introduction. And it was editing that brought me into the fold. So I was also, keep in mind, I was also the sound technician as well. And I would get hired to work on these hip hop and R&B videos because I was a black technician and there was not that many black technicians on the crew.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was the one. There's one sound guy or a couple sound guys in New York that are black. The artists are all black, so let's just have some black people on the set. That's kind of the truth, even though it sounds whack, but that's the truth. So I would get hired. I would work all the time because they wanted to at least make the artist feel a little comfortable.
Right.
Plus, that's how I got in with the video commissioners who work for the record label. Because I'm the one playing the music, and the music is the most important thing besides the artist. So that's how I got my shot, by talking and being friendly with the video commissioners, telling them, hey, I'm doing sound right now, but I'm also an editor and I'm also want to direct. So that conversation would happen all the time. up until the point, and Carly, Jive Records, always give credit, gave me my shot. So it was a band from Philly, three kids. I'd say kids, but they were probably young men. 3 young men from Philly called Too Many.
Okay.
And Will Smith was the producer of that particular band. And so that was my first shot. And it was literally, she gave me my shot when I had no credits as a director, only as an editor. So I went all out. All my friends came and worked for free. There was a little budget, and we're still shooting in film. So we went and we created magic on what we had. And then I had to go drive to Philly to go film Will Smith opening the video, like he's in the video. So my first video, I get to film, Will Smith, who's a big deal at that time. He's the French Prince. So to me, that was like, that was my introduction to directing and being an artist in the hip hop world. And that video was just cute. It was a cute video. It was very pop. Will Smith was pop, so it was very pop, backpacky, if you remember that vibe. Backpacky with the cross-color jackets and colorfulness and Dutch camera angles and people dancing and having fun. That was the vibe of my first video.
That's dope, man. And hearing you reminisce with such joy about it in terms of really thinking about, like, you made it. At that time, I know you're thinking, like, I'm here. I got my first project. So, but it also showed a dude, and we see this today in music, because this encompasses so much. Because when you're looking at, you came along at a time, because music and videos go together, and directing. This all goes together because people don't understand. You really have to pay your dues to really get in. And by you staying consistent and committed, you endeared yourself by the principles of the tenacious of hard work and dedication, which got your name out there. Like you said, it was able to get you in those doors.
Right.
When you think about that time, Abdul, how much was representation essential to really, really, really showing that, as Black people, that we could do this, that we could be in these spaces, and not only be in these spaces, but we could excel in?
Well, obviously extremely important because I'm in it, so I'm out there doing it. And then, like I keep referring to earlier, I'm not a street person, but I'm from the street, so I'm able to communicate with the artists in a way that they understand that I don't want to say code switch, but I can talk to them how they are used to being talked to, but they understand the fact that I'm a businessman, even though I'm young and I look baby face and all that. I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
So I was able to gain the trust of the artists and the management, who are always skeptical about everything.
That's not a small feat, though. That's not a small feat either.
No, it's on purpose. Like it's purposeful. You have to learn how to do that. Doesn't come naturally, I don't think, because people in the industry, there's money involved, careers are involved.
Yeah.
So and they're trusting you, and they're looking at you sideways because hey, you look like my cousin. So it's kind of like you got to know what you talk about, because obviously this was sort of a new industry. It's not like now where you can pick up your phone and shoot a video. It was a major thing. Like, just to take a photo back in the day and have it come out correctly was a big deal. So, you have to prove yourself basically to everybody, even your own people.
And it took hours and hours just to get that perfect shot in too.
Right. So I think the other thing was to be able to communicate with everybody, make everybody feel comfortable, and have a calm demeanor about calm and also kind of being not headstrong, but sure about what you're talking about. Because as soon as you start stuttering and slipping, they're gonna look at somebody else, say, maybe we should get this person. So it took a lot to learn how to do that.
But everything you did prior to that point, Abdul, prepared you for that moment, because you had already been well versed. You had already been in the trenches, so you understood, you saw this from the ground up. So that is like being a doctor who goes to medical school and understands the full anatomy of the body of work that is being developed. So you already knew what was going on in terms of everything. And what we see today, me and King, we've done so many episodes, we've been blessed to talk to so many people, we talk on air and off air about this. A lot of artists today don't understand what you had to go through, what all these artists had to go through back then. You know, when you're talking about getting a record deal, you got to audition, you got to they got to like you, then they got to like you enough to want to sign you, then they got to like you enough to where, okay, maybe we can go ahead and maybe put a little bit of money up for a single, see what it does. Mm-hmm. Then we got to get to the part about, okay, now the single buzzing. Okay, now maybe we can shoot a video for it. So that's some more money. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we got all right. ET, Rap City, you on TV rap site, Video Music Box. They with it. Okay, so now we gotta, maybe we're thinking about possibly an album getting done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, so now, yeah, it's a process. So then, but then also too, and then, then maybe now another video gets shot because you got to go with the official first single for the album. And then we haven't even gotten into the parts about getting the photographers, for the album. There's a lot. And this is where you come in because you're the director, so you're getting a budget yourself in terms of like, okay, this is how this is going to be done. Mm-hmm. And they're entrusting you to be the curator of their product, their project's product.
Implement
in terms of how it's going to be introduced to the world.
Yeah. Right. And I was going to ask you too, man, is when you also getting your feet wet and, doing projects, were budgeting at that time also a challenge?
Yeah, if it's hip hop and it's black, then the budget's going to be low. And if you're new, it's going to be even lower. So, my goal was not, money was important, but it was not the end all be all. My goal was to create a reel, basically, and get experience. So my goal was to just keep shooting. I know I'm kind of skipping and jumping all over the place, but I had work doing playback. I had work doing playback for hundreds of videos, like at least hundreds, like at least 300, like a lot. So I would just go from job to job to job to job and working with anybody on the East Coast that happens to be black. I'm usually on that job. So it is not just hip hop. I did mention LL, but there's also the Fugees and De La Soul and Kool Moe Dee and Gangstar. I went to school with Slick Rick, but Slick Rick, anybody on the East Coast, I probably worked with them at least once or twice or more. LL I worked with at least 6 times. I didn't direct any of them, but I worked with the same director, which is Paris Barkley. That was doing playback. So I got to work on all those videos, Big Old Butt, Round the Way Girl, Mama Said Knock You Out, like all the classics.
Man.
And then also the classic video, the Buddy video, the De La Soul remix.
The remix!
Yes. That was the joint. And the video was so simple, but it was just fun. Yeah, it was fun shooting it. Actually,
to see all the native tongues, that remix, because when I actually got the album De La Soul Is Dead, and I heard yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? I was surprised. That was raw.
Yep, I fell into the same thing.
When you look at that time, in terms of what videos were, when the gas really hit, these were fun. It was like one big party. We used to see LL's Around the Way Girl, all the pretty girls. We see a young Nia Long in it. You know what I'm saying? You know,
She was in it? I don't remember that. Okay.
I think one of them was Nia Long. If I'm not, I could be mistaken. But I think one of them was Nia Long at the time. I think she. I want to say she was the one. That was the one where she was talking to the dude, and LL pull up, and then she go away from the dude, and she look at the camera, then she come to LL, and then she blow the dude off.
I don't know, but maybe I don't know.
It could have been, but it might have been somebody else. I know there was one of those girls that she eventually became like a big. She went on to like do. You know, I keep thinking it was Nia. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there was one notable one in there. I do think it was her.
Yeah, it wasn't Nia Long, but there was another girl, and I don't remember her name, but she was fun though. She was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it was Nia Long.
Okay, got you. Yeah, man, but I mean, we think about so when we're looking at the videos and everything, when you get into it, how important is the casting in terms of it, and what type of, and after you get the casting done, what was your style in terms of it, in terms of the type of film that you use, you know, because I know there was the grainy, you know, you had different types of films, you're way more versed in that than we are. What was the standard back then in terms of course, analog film and just the type of film you would use to really capture that? If you were going for the street, what would be the film and the what's the word? Damn, it's right on the tip of my tongue. The filter, yes, the filter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that stuff is not particularly geared towards a specific look, but I'll answer the first question about casting. So, you know, at some point you want to have your own casting person that's on your team. So my casting person was Millicent Diane. Lived on the East Coast, and so she was my casting director. So she just pulled out all the stops, and back then it was different. So I guess whoever's listening, you know, back then back when the music industry was working as a viable industry, and they allocated budgets and marketing tools and blah blah blah. So they would put money aside for everything, whether your budget was low, medium, or high. So, you know, first of all, is your casting call. So you have a casting call. People lined up around the block, and you got the headshot that people come in. Okay, you're gonna play the song, you're gonna dance. You know, silly stuff like that, which seemed silly, but you had to do it. But it was fun. You know, it's fun to go and sit in a room and have people dance for you. I mean, who doesn't like that? Then, but it was also strategically casting people properly. And it's hard to know who's going to blow up and who's not going to blow up. So it's hard to say, okay, that person's going to blow up. Let me make sure I cast her. But I cast a few people who actually blew up. But I would use the same casting person. We had a rapport. We knew each other's language. She knew what I liked. She also understood the politics. And also, you know, there was a lot of money being spent for extras as well as the leading ladies or the leading men in the videos. So for me, like, I would always cast the same leading man. His name was Gano Grills. I don't know if you guys know Gano, but he's part of the Wu-Tang Clan. He's not a rapper. Actually, no, he is a rapper because I just saw him old video with him rapping, but he was an actor. He's in a bunch of TV shows, but back then he would always be in my videos as the quote-unquote bad guy. Because anybody who's in the rap crew of the artist that you're filming, they don't particularly want to be the bad guy. So you always need a believable bad guy if you're going to have that storyline. So he would always do it for me, and I always appreciated him for doing that. Because he was repping Wu-Tang anyway, but he wasn't like in the band so much that people are going to say, well, you got that artist in your video and you're not signed to that label, blah, blah, blah. So that was one thing that I would have never worked with Gano if I didn't work with Millicent Diane, who was my casting person.
And one thing you mentioned, Abdul, because you speak so highly of her, and deservedly so, you and her had a synergy with this. One thing about it is when you have directors like John Ford, who was known for his westerns, and how he, you know, had his, you know, returning cast. Of course, Spike Lee, famously, he has his cast. that he likes to bring back for for a lot of the projects and they've done more than one movie with him. John C. McTiernan. The list goes on and on. Directors who they find the people that fit the vision, and how is it to know that somebody sees it the same way that you do in terms of how you all go in and game plan for what you want to produce?
Well, it's super important because there's not a lot of time for anything. So, you have to keep things in perspective when it comes to your time and your money that's going to be allocated into the time that you have for the production. Because, as the director, you're on this project longer than anybody because you got to get the music from. First of all, you got to convince them to give you the music to even write a treatment. So, shout out to my partner, who was my producing partner, Chevalier Reeves, rest in peace. Chevalier Reeves was very integral in helping me get music from the record label to write treatments, even though he wasn't my manager or rep, but he was just a friendly guy who was able to slick talk people into giving us a shot. So once you get the music, that could be months before, or a couple months before you even do the video, depending on the schedule. So once you get the music and you write the treatment and you're bidding on other artists, other directors who want to be directing that video, then you get it, and then once you sign the contract, then you got to wait for the money, and then you can start production. So once you start production, that money's going to go quick. So everything goes fast once you get that check in, but it can go slow up until you get the check, and then there was no guarantee that they won't pull out at the last second before they give you that check. But as soon as you sign the contract, then they have to pay.
Got you. Usually when those obviously because we're all talking about the music videos. So what time frame do they give y'all when you started doing them? What time frame would they give y'all to get the video done?
I think overall it could be a month.
Okay.
Or a few weeks, maybe a little less. It really depends, because if they have a specific release date, then they're not going to rush it. But if suddenly this artist is hot, oh my God, we got to get this video done and get it out because the single's blowing, or the single's about to blow, or the single, who knows what's happening. So it really depends. It kind of changes from job to job.
Understood. Now, did you all have to worry about securing the video shoot permits and everything, or did y'all kind of do a guerrilla style and just y'all got it how y'all live?
Oh, no. I had permits. I mean, New York is New York, so you got to make sure you got yourself covered. But I had no problems just running and gunning, as we call it, guerrilla style. Just go ahead and do it. And by the time you're ready, someone wants to complain, we're already done, so beat it. You know what I mean? So, but if you start to bring out lights and the trucks and extras and the posse and everybody, so then, you're going to need a permit, because at some point, the cop's going to roll up on you, or somebody's going to start complaining, and you got to show them the permit.
Understood.
But if you have a big production, then you got to have a permit, because nobody wants anything shut down once you spend all that money.
Understood. So in terms of it, so now we're in the part of the illustrious career of Abdul where he's heading up projects and the money's getting a little bit better. Mm-hmm. How did it feel to know that the hard work that you had put in was beginning to pay off for you in terms of, you're really being able to helm projects and, be compensated pretty good?
I mean, I can't really say that was the case, but I could say I was working though. But I was also supporting myself as a director by doing other things, because like I said, I had already established myself as a sound technician, and I also established myself as an editor. Mm-hmm. So at some jobs, I would be the sound playback guy on the video and then edit the video. And that was a plus for me, because that's 2 paychecks, but it's also a plus for the director and the producers, because I'm already there and I know what they're shooting because I'm sitting there for hours. So it's not like It's not like I'm a stranger. Like, oh, what did you guys shoot? What's the concept? I was there. I helped. I was on set. So that was going on, and then I was also trying to direct. So at one point, I'm doing all three, not at the same time, but I'm just doing all three positions. But which doesn't help because then people see you doing something else. Like, oh, I thought you're supposed to be directing. So but the thing is, I got bills just like everybody else, and I went to college, and my college was not cheap. So I'm trying to pay back these student loans.
Right.
So I had to let that go of people's perception of what you're doing. But we'll circle back to this later because, I know I told you about the DJ Abby Ab thing and trying to be a musician and all that, but changing the stage name. But that's later on. But back to what you were saying, at some point, I had to make a decision that I'm going to push harder to direct and start to not do the playback jobs. So that was a conscious decision that I had to make. And then I also had to stop PAing. So I had to stop PAing when I started doing sound. So I think the last PA job I did was a Hall & Oates video that was shot down in the Village. And I was a big Hall & Oates fan too. So it was fun just to be there. But I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I stopped doing it.
Right.
So you just have to make a decision like, okay, this is not for me anymore. I'm not used to, you start to not get used to people telling you what to do, certain people anyway.
Well, bossed up. You bossed up at that point, so you kind of understand how to run your own show.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. See, the thing is, this is the problem a lot of people have in this industry, and you've seen it as well as we have. You got people that want to play chief, and they haven't been in Indians yet. And they don't understand what it takes to get to chief status. Because you got to work there. Like James Brown said, pay the cost to be the boss.
Right.
And, you got to be down in the field understanding how to cultivate the crops to make it grow right before you can be the one that says what crops need to get grown.
Right.
It's just not people got to understand there's a process behind the progress. And it's going to be slow, but if you're steady with the race, you're going to progress and you're going to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So you learned everything that you needed to know. So when you outgrew certain elements, it's not out of arrogance, it's because you had the requisite academics that allowed you to move ahead. That's called evolution. And that's called excelling. You know what I'm saying? So you was on your shit with it, and you got a right to be like, okay, I'm on to the next thing.
Stand on business.
So when you look, now in addition to all of this, you also found out how to be a musician as well, being an accomplished bassist. Tell us about this.
Okay. So basically back in my high school days, I went to Music and Art High School. A lot of accomplished singers, dancers, musicians. And it was a big community because it was Music and Art High School and Performing Arts High School. So a lot of my friends were musicians, but I wasn't. So I had to figure out, what could I do to fit in? And I'm in this circle of people who can play instruments and they can do it very well. And then living in New York, everyone's arrogant. Everybody's like, if they're good, they're really they're going to tell you they're good. So I picked up the bass as something that I enjoyed because I'm black. No, because I like bass and I liked drums, but I couldn't play the drums very well because I can only play lefty, and the drums aren't configured for a lefty.
Right.
So I couldn't do it. So the next thing I could do was play bass. So that's pretty much how I picked up the bass, and I didn't really get too serious with it for a while. Because I was still an artist, so I'm going to school for art. I'm not going to school for music, so I didn't study at all. I was just playing by ear, and I'm listening to stuff that's not the norm. I'm listening to Billy Idol. I'm listening to Duran Duran. I'm listening to my friend turned me on to Kiss and stuff like that. But it was Bernard Edwards from Chic that really got me into
the master himself.
Yeah, just playing the groove. I couldn't, I don't pop strings or anything like that, but it was the groove that Bernard Edwards had that really had me focus on the bass. And then when Sade came out, Paul Denman, who was Sade's bassist, pretty much solidified the style that I liked. So it was really those two. And maybe just the vibe of the bass player and UB40. Remember UB40?
Yeah, Red Wine.
Yeah, so they had tons of albums besides that one song, but they were I call them Euro pop reggae. It was reggae enough, but it wasn't too reggae that I can catch on to it. Like I could, when you listen to Bob Marley, those bass lines are hard. It's like you gotta dig deep into that to really hear what they're playing. And another example is like Marvin Gaye stuff. It sounds simple, but whoever the bass players on the Marvin Gaye albums, songs, you dig deep. Even Motown bass players, they're just like, they're playing notes that I can't even find half the time. Man, and the last bassist that does that is Sting. You think it sounds simple until you solo that bass and you really listen to it. You're like, oh, okay, how did he even come up with that one? And he makes it seem so simple. So I just had these bass superstars in my life that I was like, okay, I'm just going to mimic the ones that I can mimic.
You're missing one, though. You know where I'm going to go.
Was it Marcus? No, who?
No. Jaco Pastorius, Weather Report.
Yeah, but that's complex as hell.
I know, I'm fucking with you.
I'm telling you, I can only mimic on what I could play. So I can only look at those guys and be like, wow, they doing it. Yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of other basses, but like I said, I'm just naming ones that I can even try to mess with. And I just say try. And that's just me playing along with the music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, but we think about we think about what he was doing with Chic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, when you hear songs like Everybody Dance or Good Times, I mean, he literally he makes it dance.
Right.
You know, in terms of really, really, I guess that you couldn't compare him and Rick James because their styles were totally different in terms of how they played.
Right. Well, Rick James is he's his own entity. Like,
yeah, man. I mean, Rick is just like.
I mean, if you want to get into that, we got Rick James, we got Isaac Hayes, we got Barry White. Those guys are just their own entities.
They
like,
aliens.
You can't mess with them.
They aliens in their own craft.
Right. And rest in peace to all of them, but still, those guys are just like, I mean, people sleep on Rick James. They just think of Super Freak and that's it. But this guy was a genius. Barry White was a genius. Isaac Hayes was a genius.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of their abilities to write and compose, I mean, if you figure Barry White with the LUO, Love Unlimited Orchestra, I mean, the stuff that they did, I mean,
if you go through those catalogs, man, you're going to find so many diamonds. Because just like you said, everybody know them just for, the mega hits. But you look through those samples, a lot of people's favorite rappers use samples, elements, and portions of a lot of those deep cuts. Because we're deep cut thinkers, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't know nothing about Moonchild.
We're not snitching on nobody on air because we don't want nobody to get hit for no copyrights, because we know a couple of them samples that people don't be talking about, but we know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so when you think about it, obviously this will pretty much transition you, and so this is where the part of the musician element is, in addition to director, editor, writer. Tell us about your writing in terms of, your compositions in terms of that. Tell us about that in terms of scripts or whatever, or what have you.
Okay, well, I mean, a musician to writer, I don't know if that's a good segue, but I did write and I do write. I'm not a fan of writing. My discipline is a little off when it comes to writing, but I can write and I do write, but I'm usually more interested in writing up a specific project, knowing that that project is about to happen. Now, that's a rarity too, to write something and know that it's going to happen versus writing it and hope it's going to happen.
You don't want it in development hell. You don't want it.
Right. So, there's been opportunities that I've jumped on board. I was asked to write something and paid to do it. Those are the best writing gigs, obviously, versus writing a spec script. So it was a movie that I rewrote called My Normal, and My Normal was like a low budget dramedy shot in the Lower East Side, but it was like funny and I just had a great time rewriting it, and that was just the opportunity that just fell into my lap. Good friend of mine, Philippa Davis, was also one of the producers, asked me to come on board, and they didn't pay me that much, but I enjoyed it, and that was like one of the first times I was actually enjoying writing. Now other times it's more of a task because I'm focused on directing. I want to direct. So it gets a little complicated when it comes to writing. But I think the other thing that I love to emphasize is, like, if you take what you like and what you don't like, but you're good at it, and put it into your whole persona and your whole career, then obviously you're going to excel. So I think going back to the music videos, when I'm trying to do these videos, I'm always trying to write a story into the video versus flashy this, ass shaking in the camera. All right, I like looking at asses and I like cars, but I don't need to see that all the time. There's times you want to see it and there's times you don't want to see that. So I was like, let me find a lane that I can get into. So, for example, when I did the first video that sort of helped my career skyrocket, which was a video for Original Flavor. It had a song called All That.
All That.
Yeah. So that, there was little stories going on in there. It wasn't just flashy, but it was a story of telling stories, of telling this story and telling this story. So that was like my first video that was popular. Even though the Original Flavor, even though Too Many was shot, they were on TV, but the song was okay. It wasn't the best song. And it was very popular.
Some would say, could I get open with, because we're about to go into the segue, you know where it's going, but please finish that up.
Right, so I didn't do Can I Get Open, by the way. That was done, I think that was Marcus who did that. I don't remember who did that video. But anyway, I didn't do that video, but I know I did the All That video, and that was me trying to tell a story. And that's where I met Damon Dash, who was their manager at the time. And that is where I met Mr. Hove, Mr. Carter, Mr. JayZ on that video set.
Here's the transition. Here's the segue.
Here we go.
And I just remember meeting him, and I thought he was cool. He was kind of quiet, so I didn't really know who he was, but I kind of knew who he was because I was introduced to him. And then I remember at the time that we were shooting at the Rebar, but it was closed, and he wanted to buy champagne because he was just there chilling. They're like, oh, you can't buy champagne legally because the bar is closed. So that's the only time I spoke to him, besides I just said, okay, action, and can we borrow your car? That was about it. He let us borrow his Pathfinder. He had a Pathfinder at the time. So that was the introduction to the whole Damon Dash camp Rocafella. It wasn't even Rocafella at the time. They didn't even have Rocafella. It wasn't until months later I ran into Damon Dash, and he was like, yeah, I want to do a video for my man JayZ. You remember him? I was like, yeah, I remember him. He's like, yeah, I want to do a little video. He didn't have no money. Well, they didn't want to spend any money. I can't say he didn't have money. But I said yes. And but then that was the opening the door to my career, because I could have said no. And then where would I have been? But I said yes, knowing that I'm not doing this for the money. So we ended up doing I Can't Get With That for JayZ, his first video.
Yeah.
And we shot that at Marcy Projects. And I just had my crew come out. Everybody worked for free. All the money went to the camera rental and the film and the food. And that's it. I remember that something happened to film, to be honest with you. Something happened in the lab and they messed up the film, and some of the color was this color and now the color was the wrong color. It was a nightmare, but we still finished it, and it was a video, so it doesn't have to look a certain way. But I just remember, like, it was so low budget, they would put us in like give us the nighttime guy to transfer the film, stuff like that. Those are the things you had to deal with back when you had no money, because there was no digital at the time. So you had to shoot on film. So that video pretty much is what opened the door. And just being able to communicate with someone like Jay. But Jay was, and I always say this, Jay wasn't very, in your face, like, oh, what's up, but he's not like that on record either. So he was very easy to talk to, very interested in knowing what's going on, very instrumental on trying to create a persona, because he didn't really have a persona back then. He was just a rapper.
Yeah.
And whatever else he was doing.
And it's crazy because when we think about this time, y'all, because of course with Big Jazz, Hawaiian Sophie, with Jay being in that back in the day, for those who remember that far back in '88. So obviously we jumped to '94 because this is in earnest. This is Rocafella before Rocafella, like you said, Abdul, actually becomes Rocafella, because these are just some guys from the street, Marcy Project in Brooklyn, who are just trying to basically make a way. Shout out to the rock, to the cornerstones of it, of course, Tennessee Care, Pain in the Ass, Mackie, all those guys.
Right.
Especially Pain in the Ass. That conversation me and him had a couple of years ago. Funny guy, sweetheart, love him dearly. That's my best to him and his wife. And me and Pain were talking, and Pain was like, people really don't understand. Like, Jay had money in the street for a long time. So this is a thing where obviously in '94, and shout out to Source Magazine because they ran the Sure Shot single with Jay when it was on. I think it wasn't on. I think it might have been on Freeze Records when he released that.
It was one of the small labels.
This is when Jay is actually like, he's just beginning to get out there. There's still like they want to get into the music, but they are not sure how to do it yet. They wouldn't really get it until late '95, when I believe they signed their deal with Priority. So those are
there was a single deal.
Yeah.
So I know I Can't Get With That was just very random. Like, I don't think they even had a distribution. They played on Video Music Box. That was about it.
Right.
And then we did In My Lifetime. I think that was Priority or Payday. One of the two, I forget.
London Payday, yes, sir.
So that was something that was more of a collab. I mean, it was let's just put it this way. Our working relationship was collaboratory, meaning everything was not like, do this is what we want. It's always like, what do you think? This is what we have available. Can you work with it? Because they weren't trying to spend a lot of money. I don't think they understood that you actually do need money to shoot these damn videos. But but as I mentioned earlier, I was hungry. I'm trying to create a career, so I'm not chasing money because I'm working to be a director. So I have my other gigs I was working on. So I could work for JayZ. I could work with JayZ because I'm working somewhere else. And I can afford to work with JayZ because I'm working somewhere else. So it was like that for a little while. So we would collaborate, and I remember we did the In My Lifetime video, and it was suggested that we shoot in St. Thomas because they had connects in St. Thomas. So we shot the beginning in New York just to give a vibe, and it was freezing cold in New York. It was like, okay, well, we're going to start the video in New York. You see the slush on the ground, the snow, and the trucks, and it's grimy. But then we're going to cut, and now he's going to be in sunny St. Thomas. So that was like one of the first baller videos that came out that wasn't fake. It was real. Because we just went to where the stuff was. We didn't have to rent it. We didn't have to pay for it. I think the only thing we had to rent was the jet skis. That's it.
When you think about this time, Abdul, because this is one reason why we are so happy, we are so elated to do this show with you. Because your history, you're part of two golden eras in film and music in terms of what you were working with Spike Lee and all of them, and then working with Jay, because you're working with Jay before he becomes the Jay we know today.
Right.
So you're seeing, and we haven't even got to the street to watch a documentary. We got to get to that.
There's a lot we get to, but yeah. So that was just the beginning. That was just me starting with those guys and building a reputation with the Rocafella crew and who they are, and they had their street teams and all that stuff with Mercedes. We even did commercials. Payne was in one of the commercials, actually. It was based off of that. What was that commercial? No, my brother, you got to get your own. It was based on that.
He is a damn fool.
Yes, yes.
He is a damn fool.
But I have to say, Pain in the Ass has earned his name because he was such a pain in the ass back then. Now he's a super sweetheart, but he was a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And he knew it. and he did it on purpose. He did it on purpose. I don't know how he didn't get beat up all the time. Because I'd be like, yo, you were pushing the buttons, dude. You were pushing buttons.
Listen, man. Oh, God. I'll tell you. Well, I think you know that story about how I got backstage with him a couple of years back. If not, we'll talk off air about that. But the thing is, did you see with Jay? Did you see then that he was going to be a star? And not only a star.
I'm just going to say yes. I'm just going to cut you off and say yes.
Go ahead.
I'm saying yes because I am running with that because I believed in him. I thought he was talented at AF, and that was the first thing. I had to invest in his career because, like I said, I wasn't making a lot of money or barely any money because I wanted to make sure my crew got paid. So I wasn't making money from working on it. I was creating my reel. I was getting my reel done so I can get other work. But I'm also going in for meetings at other record labels, and I'm bringing his video, and I'm trying to get him signed because he's still independent.
Yeah, because Dane talked about this, that nobody wanted to sign them at the time. No, you know what? They said if Russell. Now they did get the second the deal they got for the In My Lifetime album. That was when Def Jam did pick them up. But for the first one,
nobody was rocking with them.
Yeah, Russell didn't. Russell wasn't feeling them at the time.
Right. So I would go, like I said, I would go to the meetings. I'd obviously try to sell myself as a director, but I also always said, he's independent. Check this JayZ guy out. Try it. Right. Take a listen to his material, and we're good. Whatever. And then I would when I go to the record stores, when there was record stores, I would go to look for the JayZ stuff, and I would take it from the back, and I would put it in the front. Like I was like, I want this brother to win, and so I would just always advocate for him and try my best to push him as an artist no matter what. And he didn't even know all this stuff that I was doing it, but I believed in him. I believed in Damon and everybody who worked there, because it seemed like they were just doing it to start right there. It wasn't established, so everybody was just starting wherever they came from. Yeah.
When you look at it, Abdul, what was the criteria for artists getting signed back then?
Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, obviously you got to have a buzz and you got to have some talent. I can't say everybody was talented, by the way, but
right.
I don't know. I can't answer that. But I do know that at that time Biggie was the man. So
right.
I actually had to pick sides. You're going to be a bad boy, you're going to be with The Rock. So I was with The Rock. So even though I knew who Biggie was and I liked Biggie, I was like, I'm not fucking with that, excuse my language, but I'm just going to deal with Rocafella. So that was kind of it for a while until I found out that Jay actually was friends with Biggie. So I was like, oh, okay, so I I don't have to like not listen to Biggie because Biggie was the man, but I wasn't listening to his stuff after a while. But I was around when Biggie was coming up. You know, I remember the party and bullshit performance he did.
Yeah,
well, but I saw him do that in person at the Apollo.
Okay.
And then I remember when he came out on the Super Cat video, and I was like, "Who's this guy?"
My baby, yeah.
I was like, "Who's this guy?" I was like, "Okay, he's different." That was the first thing I noticed. Like, oh, he's different. He's got a different flow. And that was my introduction, and then he just blew up at some point.
When I think about that era of 1992, when we first heard Big on Who's the Man soundtrack, starring Dr. Dre and their lover on the movie Party and Bullshit. Here in Virginia, we didn't get a hold of it till around the spring of '93. That's when they started putting that in rotation out here. And then, of course, the Bad Boy remix of Super Cat with Dolly My Baby. Just fucking, it's insane. The shit just blows up. I mean, then they do the video for it, and it's like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. This is an instant classic. Dance hall was our shit back in the day. You know, right. In the 90s. If you grew up like we did in the 90s, and we all came up in that time, dance hall was essential. Reggae was just, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention all the Shabba Ranks videos I worked on.
Well, let's talk about those. I mean, yeah, the one of the
resume is deep, my brother.
Yeah, so I worked with, like I said, I was doing playback, so I would do playback, and then I was editing, and I was also editing the videos that Fab Five Freddy was directing for Shabba Ranks. So, Fab, I don't know if you knew Fab Five Freddy.
Yeah, man. I did not know. I know who he was, but I didn't know he directed.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of those videos. Muscle Grip, the one with Johnny Gill, I forgot the name of it now. Slow and Sexy. Yeah, it's just a lot of Bedroom Bully. It was a lot of those videos. Even we did a home video called Naked and Ready. Shot an interview at Fab's house with Shabba. So, yeah, anything you could touch on almost anything, and I'm like had my toe in there a little bit. All different genres. But Shabba was the man, and still is, as far as I'm concerned. But he was the master of it all, and it was other people as well. But he was just
Louis Rankin, Ninja Man, Yellow Man.
There's a ton of them. Boy. But I just focused on him because he had the right sound, and he knew how to teeter that dance. I mean, he did both. He'll have the pop dance hall, and then he had the hardcore dance hall. And I liked both of them.
When you look at the era of music and Abdul, of hip hop, and what it's like today, what do you see the difference in from then to now?
Well, now it's sort of a free for all. It's like whatever. It's in the whatever vibe. Artist development, I can't really say too much about it because I don't think people are putting a lot of money behind it. So a lot of artists to me seem the same. There's gems and diamonds in the rough, but just the artist development is not as it used to be. And that's important because obviously you had your MTVs and your BETs and all the stations that would strategically start putting these people in front of you. Versus now, you got to find it, or you got to see a clip on TikTok, or a clip here, or some controversy. But before, it was people were being fed to you in a way that you can digest it. Versus now, it's like all in your face. Okay, it's enough. So you tend to go backwards and start to look for the old stuff because at least you can kind of catch a nice little ride with them versus just they're already in there, stomp in your face. So that's the main difference. Like there was more of a industry and a strategic industry as well, where they're doing it like they're supposed to. Whether people liked it or not, I think it's good to have your artist marketed correctly, where you can get to know who they are and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and when we look at it, because hip hop at its core has always been a DIY of guerrilla warfare from the streets of recording and then getting it out. So we never relied on the culture for public acceptance or mainstream validation. Um, I guess when we look at it now, because we live in such a media-driven society, or going viral is the goal, we see so many people now who, how do I say this? If you're trying to get your music out there, that's fine. But the thing is, number one, make sure you're good at it.
Well, that part.
Yeah.
You know, and then number two, um, but the people do take the initiative to go ahead and do it themselves. They're not waiting on it. Back in the day, like we were talking earlier, you had to go through all these hoops and obstacles to get a record deal. Like a lot of these artists now, they're like, we're just going to do it ourselves, and that's the way to do it, because you're not. Look, if you waited for that train to come, and the train may come, but you may not have a ticket, then write yourself a ticket to get on when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't wait for somebody to, you go ahead and, if you see it coming, you go ahead, and it stops at a certain place, you go ahead and get on it. Write your own ticket for it. But I guess I look at it now, everybody's looking for the celebrity, but they're not looking for the substance.
Yeah, I'm not on that bandwagon. So to me, I could just the reason, and I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, the reason why I don't want to keep paying for Spotify and keep paying for this music streaming, because I still own all the CDs that I listen to. So I don't have to go stream it because I own it. So I'd rather just play the music that I own because I'm cool with it. And if it's something new, then I'll just go buy it. I'm like, I guess, one of the last people who want to go buy something. But I don't mind buying it because I want to own it and not have to stream it.
Especially now.
How do you feel about how it's changed now in terms of where streaming has become like the thing? Because artists seem to think that this is like the easier way, and we have fought for years on this show carrying the flag. No, nigga, go out and buy the damn album. Get the physical copies. This is important.
Right. I was okay with the downloads because you still got to pay for it.
Right.
But now if you don't, you just want to hear the song and you pay for the streaming service, you could play the song over and over, but I'm not making any money. And I'm the perfect example of an artist who independently produced and released their own music because I have a band. But I don't make a lot of money from it because people are just streaming it. And it's only pennies or even quarters of a penny. Like, you're not going to get a return unless you stream millions of times or hundreds of thousands of times. So we're not at that level. So you're not going to see a return on your investment. So you have to do it for the love. But I'm happy that you can actually just put it out. And you don't have to wait for someone to say you could put it out. But it changed from when I started till now. Because like I said, when I started, it was downloads. You got to still pay the 99 cents. Right. And you can hear the first 30 seconds for free, but you still got to pay for it. Now it's like you can hear the whole thing basically for free. So the money is messed up right now. I don't know if I like it. I know I don't like it. Let's put it that way.
It's like leasing a catalog. It's like leasing a catalog, and it also cheapens the experience.
Right. Well, I mean, we can go down the wrong rabbit hole when it comes to cheapening a lot of experiences, so we're going to stick on something else. But I do have a lot to say about that. But with the AI stuff, but I don't want to get into that conversation. But I agree with what you're saying. But it goes even deeper.
Oh yeah, we'll say that for the second go around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's go back to where we left off. So yeah, we were working on In My Lifetime. Then they did an In My Lifetime remix because they got some other deal on another label.
Okay.
And we did that video with some combinations of the St. Thomas footage along with some new footage we shot in Brooklyn. We're in Brooklyn? Yeah, we were in Brooklyn. We were at this mob owned restaurant. They let us shoot there. And so he mixed it together. It was the Big Jazz remix. And that's the one who sort of got overlooked. Jazzo was a very talented producer and artist. Yeah. And just in that camp alone, we had Memphis Bleak, we had Sauce Money. You know, these guys are talented. Sauce Money is like one of the best rappers, best writers out there.
Yeah.
And he just didn't blow up like he should have.
Middle Finger You was an excellent album. For those that do not have it, go get it. It's still out there. It's still out there. I have it. Go get it.
Yep. I have the I was lucky to do a couple of videos for him, and he was another one of those artists that wasn't on Rocafella, but should have been on Rocafella. He just wasn't. I'm not sure why. I never even asked why he wasn't signed to Rocafella. But he was signed, I think it was Geffen or MCA, or I think it was MCA. First he started with Geffen, but I think he moved to MCA. But, you know, once you know these artists and then the opportunity comes where you can actually work with them and you're actually friends with them, that's the best experience, because your heart's in it, and my heart's always in it anyway, by the way, but you're not even thinking about anything but making sure that this guy or this girl blows up. That's your goal. And that's the goal I have for a lot of these. Every artist I work with, I want them to blow up. There's no artist I ever worked with about like, I don't like this person.
And you know what's dope?
Worked on someone who I didn't like.
And you know what's dope about how you did with Streets Is Watching is you made Jay-Z and them transition to get their names back into the streets, because around the time they dropped In My Lifetime Volume 1, they was, you know, using the Bad Boy sound, and that kind of like threw them for a loop. But then when you took it with your video, your visuals there, you brought them right back to the core. And then they never lost that momentum from there.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was their idea. You know, as the time went by, I thought it was just Damon's idea and Jay's idea, maybe Big's. But I think it was Shaka Pilgrim who also had a hand in creating Streets Is Watching to rescue his persona from the Sunshine video.
That's always the one that comes up.
The streets weren't feeling it though. The streets weren't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it. I was feeling a little hurt because they went to Hype and gave him all that money to shoot that, where I'm, you know, doing the videos for $1.99 and he's getting $1,000. You know, I'm just giving weird numbers, but you know what I mean? It's like, I know they spent a lot of money on it.
Nah, hey, everybody mentioning Sunshine, but you ain't mentioned the worst one on the album. I know what girls like. I know what they want.
I skipped that song.
It's crazy because when we look at that history, June 24th, 1996, Reasonable Doubt drops. And for the purists of hip-hop culture, rest in peace to my cousin Keith, my cousins Darnell and AJ. I was over their house at the time, and they hit me to it, and I listened to it, and I tell anybody, you want to hear Jay spitting some shit, listen to that album.
Absolutely.
He was saying some stuff up there. Jay was saying some shit. Like, what did he say on Hard Knock Life? He's like, I gave y'all the first one and y'all lamed out. Didn't really appreciate it until the second one came out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but when you listen to Reasonable Doubt, it's classic MC skills. It's a slow burn, because the record doesn't blow right away, but the people who really, really fuck with it, like we did, we loved it and we were supporting it. In My Lifetime comes in 97, because this is when Def Jam's like, okay, all right, we're sorry. Well, here's y'all money. You know, can y'all give us an album? But like King said, Bad Boy is running shit. You know, rest in peace to Big. You know, because the whole Bad Boy machine is in full swing. You know what I mean? We're speaking from this not with Puffy's recent issues, because this is a totally separate situation. This is strictly music. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, Puffy was a marketing genius of how he had that bad boy train rolling. Dame even said in a Double XL magazine interview years ago, I still have it, as well as the Source magazine. He said that Dame said it. We were trying to do what they were doing, and he had a nervous laugh behind it because he's like, "That's a laugh I get. He fucked up doing that shit too."
Right.
But how did he? So when the streets was watching and came up, and obviously, what was that conversation like in terms of realizing like, nigga, we in trouble and we gotta get this shit right again? Because then he dropped Hard Not Life, and it just like totally just goes nuclear.
Right. Well, I mean, that was after. So
right after, right.
So this one was, I think they did a couple of other videos too. So, you know, as a person who's there, you always feel like, oh, what the hell? Why are you doing other videos? I think the You Belong to the City, they did that video, but I had nothing to do with it. And I can't really fault them for like wanting to expand their roster of different people. But obviously, you always want to get the first call. But yeah, it was just it was super random. I had still lived in New York at the time, and I got a call from Damon. He was like, "Oh, come out to Jersey. I want to talk to you about a project for Jay."
Okay.
So I drive out to Jersey, and he was like, "Okay." He showed me the rough cut of Sunshine video. He said he didn't like it, and then he's like, "Yeah, I want to do like a visual album. I want to do, you know, take all." So I actually went downstairs, got in his Benz, and we just drove around. He played every single track and said, "I want to do a video like this," or "I just want to do this song. What do you think?" And you know, it was more just like a meeting in the car after we saw the video.
Right.
So that's how it came about, and then it was up to me and Shaka and Jay and Damon, and I don't know if Biggs was actually helping writing, but he was always around. But we just had to come up with these different skits, and it wasn't supposed to be a straight movie. It was like it was designed as a long form video that they're going to sell, and that was the key, that they're going to sell it. It's not for TV, except for the actual single Streets is Watching is going to be on TV.
Right.
But everything else is only for the video. And to me, that was genius, because not many people did that. Maybe Michael Jackson, maybe. Even Master P wasn't doing it that way. He was doing movies, but he wasn't doing videos only and selling the videos. So that's how it came about. It was, and they just took a big chunk of money. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than what they were spending before. But we're doing major production. We weren't doing camcorder. You know, we had 35 millimeter cameras, cranes, steady cams, bull crew, trucks, locations, art department, cast, all this stuff.
Right.
And we're trying to do it while he's touring on the Bad Boy tour, because Jay is touring on the Bad Boy tour. So I'm trying to get this done in between tour dates.
Oh, wow.
So this was as you were saying, well, how long does it take? So it was definitely taking, because we had to prep that like a movie.
Right.
And then hope that he's available to show up and do it and schedule it properly. So it was a definite job. It wasn't. I can't say it was fun. Like, it wasn't painful. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. But it was also like, okay, this is stressful, because we're dealing with an artist who's actually blowing up now.
Yeah, and I mean, Jay is like at that place where 97 is the midpoint, because Jay he's there, you know, in terms of it. Shout out to Double XL magazine, get Elliot Wilson, because Jay and Master P did the double cover for their inaugural issue. So this is in fall of 97. So Jay is he's that dude at the moment. You know, like I said, when he drops Hard Not Life in 98, that's the joint that really, really sends him to the next level. But, you know, what the work you all did in Intern was the one that really, really kind of helped stabilize it where it was shaking.
That's when the home runs start hitting, man, because then to follow that, I think Money Ain't a Thing, follow that. Then Can I Get a What?
It's all right, you know, and all that.
Right. I don't know if it was a video, but it's all right.
You said what now?
I don't think we put a video. He did a video for It's Alright.
Yeah, no, there was a video for that. It's Alright.
What?
Yeah, there was a video for that.
I guess I didn't do it. So yeah. I mean, they were definitely putting stuff out and then testing the waters and seeing what hits and what doesn't.
But that's something. But I think that's a science, though, Abdul, when we look at the industry in terms of when the corporate, because this is about the time the rap starts to get a little bit corporate, too, when you're looking at these artists and these labels in terms of it. One thing about it, I can't remember which guest we had, but we were talking about the money that these labels were throwing around back in the day. They were like, that money was getting thrown around crazy back then.
Yeah, at some point it was a little out of control. And yeah, it would have been better in control if it was going in my pocket, but it was definitely going. Some of the budgets were just ridiculously high, you know, and once they have a high budget, they're going to pick someone else just because. But the goal, like, I knew how much things cost, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I didn't know. So sometimes I was wondering why the record label people didn't know how much things cost. So maybe they didn't know and they didn't care, but I never understood how they recoup that money. But then again, with these albums going double platinum, triple platinum, then obviously you can't fake that. At some point, you got to be getting some money. So I guess the money did come in, or everyone just went broke and they didn't know about it. But they were definitely spending some money, and they're definitely not spending it now. But so Streets Is Watching came out, and voila, it went number one. Like, that was like one of the most rewarding things that I ever experienced in my life, to have that video come out and look in Billboard and it says number one.
When you think about the validation, because that was vindication for your career in terms of what you all accomplished with that, what type of attention did you all end up getting, or you specifically, Abdul? What type of attention did you end up getting from major studios and labels after, you know, that project hits number one like that?
I think it was mixed, because I got more work for sure. People didn't understand the math and the theory behind Streets Is Watching as a project, so it couldn't really mimic it. I would pitch the idea to other labels for other artists, but they didn't get it. They didn't understand. What? You're going to do a video? You're going to sell it? Like, they don't understand. Like, you can make money, you spend the money, but you can actually make your money back. So I don't know if they were even aware of that part. Right. That it's a money-making thing as well, but you have to invest first. Maybe they didn't want to. I don't know. As I thought about it recently, it's like maybe they couldn't sell the videos. They could have had a sample, and I couldn't figure out the legal part, because to me it made sense. But I'm sure behind the scenes there was always something that didn't work out. But you know, I got called to come in and meet with Bad Boy. They wanted to meet me. Oh, who did Streets Is Watching? You know, it was stuff like that. But studios weren't checking for me at all, because it was still a very street project. Even though it looked, you know, it had a look to it, and it looked like it was, you know, camcorder style, but it was definitely very street. So whenever I play it with people, like, oh, this guy needs to do a movie, blah, 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 but it was only in that circle, the music video circle. So I'm trying to break into the industry in the feature world, and that was the hard part and almost impossible. So, you know, I'm still in the music video world, and everyone's taking me serious as a storyteller, and that was the good part. Right. So they weren't coming to me for the ass in the videos. I was doing videos that was story oriented. At least it was kind of slick, you know, slick.
Right. But it's crazy that when you talk about it, because your work has such volume of quality, and you worked efficiently. But in terms of, like you said, Abdul, trying to get that next level of it, you know, it's like everybody, like you said, they just weren't understanding it. But then you look at the situation with Ike Williams, and then he gets then Def Jam decides, okay, we're gonna ride this wave because of him, and then they end up putting out the movie Them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and that's like the thing.
Right.
And then, there's a story behind it. For those that know it, you kind of know what it is. But the thing is, they had the best intentions with Belly in terms of getting. Pretty much, it was a who's who of everybody in the industry who was in that movie. Rest in peace, DMX. But they also had the logistical issues behind it too, because I don't think they really understood how they were going to really, really pull it off like they should have. And you kind of know the story behind that too, afterwards, well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I know like the movie that came out is not the movie he was trying to make. That part I know as well. But yeah, I didn't know the stuff behind that movie until recently. To be honest, I saw a mini documentary on.
Yeah, they ran out of money. They ran out of money doing film.
Right. Well, he kept going over budget too, so that was something. But that's something I could never do. Could never go over budget. But so Streets is watching that opened the doors, and then I started doing a lot of stuff from Motown. So I would just cultivate different relationships. So I was friends with Matt X, who also worked with Andre Harrell, who was heading Motown at the time, and did videos. Yeah, definitely. That dude gave me some chances, so I always could say Andre was a cool cat. So I was able to do the Whitehead Brothers video.
You were 187?
No. It was called Feel Your Pain.
Okay.
Feel Your Pain. It was like a slow jam. And from that video, I cast Sherry Som, who's now an actress, a pretty prominent actress, director. She was the leading lady in the video, Sherry Som. And I came through Millicent, my casting director, and then I did Assorted Flavors.
What are you waiting for?
Assorted Flavors was with Big Daddy Kane in it.
Yeah, I remember the name song called What Are You Waiting For? I think that was the lead single.
Oh, I don't know. This one was called Make Up Your Mind, but...
Okay, got you.
Yeah, but that one was cool, and then I did Shades, and we shot that in Miami, Tell Me Your Name.
Yeah.
That was like another banger that would have blew up even more, but then LL had the same sample. And there was a story behind that, too, with the Bernard Wright song. And that's just one of the few I think I did another one for Andre. Was Caffeine. I don't know if you know the actor Caffeine. Well, he goes by Caffeine, but he's also an actor. He was in like West Coast gangster movies. But that was also Andre Harrell. So he definitely, I did like at least 4 videos under him as the lead of the label.
Man, whatever they say, that man, people can say what they say about Andre, but that dude,
he was a visionary,
and we wouldn't see the level of entertainment we see in hip hop without him.
Yeah, I think they just announced that BET's going to do something on him.
Yeah, they're going to do a 3-part. They said they're going to do a 3-part miniseries on like Uptown Records in terms of it, and I'm like, a 3-part. I'm like, y'all can't do that shit in three parts.
Well, it could be really long parts, but I can't.
Yeah, it happens. I'm like, if it's 2 hours each, and you're talking about a 6-hour documentary, then yeah, it might work. But I'm like, but that Uptown history is long. It is. I mean, when you talk about who came off that tree, Mary J. Blige, Heavy D, Jodeci, Puffy, that's a lot.
That's a hell of a lineage right there.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I don't know where to go because this is your interview, but
Yo,
what you want me to answer? I can go anywhere you want.
Yeah, we literally went 2 hours, and 2 hours went to breeze.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
oh snap! I'm sorry, people, listeners, but hey, I got a long history, and then we're not even halfway done. But, okay.
So That's why we got to do a part 2 to this to get the rest of it.
Yeah, part two.
Right.
Yeah, part two. We definitely gonna do that on StreamYard, man. 'Cause you know that's your platform right there. So we just had to pivot on this situation here. But when we get on StreamYard, we definitely gonna get that lined up as well. So that way people can see the visuals.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we could, like I said, we can hold off on that. But yeah, I definitely want to talk about my band, Boss. The band's called Boss, and how that came about, and other projects that I've been working on. Curse of War. I did a short film that blew up and made all these, got all these awards, and documentary I've been working on with a partner.